Okay, this is the first part of our practice test. We have a test coming up on Thursday and Friday, and I just want to go over some problems with you. So the first one asks us to write this number in scientific notation back into standard notation. So what you want to do is write down the decimal portion, the factor portion, and then determine how many spaces to move your decimal point. Well, since it has a 6, and all of these numbers are larger than 1, we want to go to the right and make this larger. We want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's our new decimal point. We put in those zeros. Remember, this is your scratchy work, so it's good to write this over again. 7, 2, and then 5 zeros. Put in your commas every 3. Then you can see where you match up. So the second one down is going to be the correct answer. Okay, this next problem, it says that each person on Earth, for each person on Earth, there are 17 million flies. Write this number in scientific notation. Now, before I even start to solve this, it wants the answer in scientific notation. So I can say that this first answer will not work. This is not in scientific notation because your decimal point would sit here, making two numbers out in front of it. You can't have two numbers in front of your decimal point. So that is not a possibility. Another one you can throw out is this last one. You cannot have a 0 is the only number in front of your decimal point. So this last one also is an impossibility. Now notice what you have remaining. 1 and 7/10, 1 and 7/10. So just by looking at your answer choices, you know where this decimal point is going to land. It's going to start at the back end and move all the way over between 1 and the 7. So how many places did you move it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So your answer is 1 and 7/10 times 10 to the 7th. Now let me tell you another thing. This 6 is put in here to trick you. You see, many students count the zeros, and they would choose this. But remember, you're not counting zeros, you're counting spaces. Count the spaces, not the zeros. Find the values of 3 to the negative 4th power. So recall we have this rule that we talked about back on October 5th about then. And that said, if you have a base with a negative power, what you do is you rewrite it as a fraction and make the power positive. So that's what we have to do here. So we're going to rewrite this as a fraction with a positive power. And now solve. Well, this 4 exponent tells you to use the 3 4 times. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now, of course, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So that would go 1 over 81. And notice how when we realized that we were going to have a fraction, you could have easily said, no way you could be the answer. And there's no, oops, not that one. And there's no way that you can be the answer. So you can eliminate some of these problems, some of these answers by just knowing how the problems work, by knowing how to use your formulas. Remember, these formulas were given to you for the test also. So we solved it, and we know that this is the answer. Okay, I kind of got this one crooked. How many places do you move the decimal, and in which direction if you want to write this number in scientific notation? So here's the number that they're referring to. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So here's your decimal point way at the end. So if you want to write this in scientific notation, you're going to move to the left. So anything that says right is wrong. Anything that says right is wrong because it's going the wrong way. So we're going to move this decimal point between the 4 and the 1. So how many spaces? Well, here's 3 zeros plus 3 more is 6. The 909 makes it 9 spaces, and that 1 more makes it 10. Whoops. So you're going to have 10 spaces to the left. The reason why I put 6 in here is because of these 6 zeros. Remember, I know the mistakes that students make. They count zeros rather than spaces. So I'm trying to trick you. Please don't let me trick you. Okay, write 5 and 81 hundredths times 10 to the 7th kilometers in standard notation. So the first thing I want you to do is to take a look at 581 and make sure they all have 581. So this is 581. Oh, look at that. This is 5801. That will not be the answer. Here's 581, 581. So just by checking out to see if they were trying to trick me, this happens a lot. They'll throw zeros in trying to trip you up. So please pay attention to that. So this, of course, is not going to be one of the answer choices anymore. That's all gone. So let's take a look and see if we can solve this. So I have 5 and 81 hundredths. I'm going to move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. And the 7 spaces, of course, comes from the 7 exponent. I fill those spaces in with my 5 zeros. So I have to go, let me write this down again, 5, 8, 1, and then my 5 zeros. And I can put my commas in every 3. So I can match it up to the first answer. So be careful about those little tricky things trying to trip you up there. Okay, next up we have this very small number. They want this in scientific notation. Again, before you start to solve it, scientific notation. Anything down here we can get rid of because it's not in scientific notation. I would say this is a problem because we can't have a 0 in front of your decimal point. You can only have a single digit, but it cannot be a 0. So this answer is out. This one is also out. Here's your decimal point. You have 2 digits in front of it. You're only allowed to have 1. So that one's out. Now look and see what you have remaining. They both have a 742. So without doing much more work, you know that that decimal is going to end up between the 7 and the 4 because those are the only choices you have left. So how many spaces did you move it? Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. It has to be a negative exponent because this number is smaller than 1. So I'm going to say that my final answer is this last one. This -5 is counting how many zeros. I was trying to trick you up there. That's a really sad face. Okay, the thickness of a human hair is approximately this teeny number, inches. Write this number in scientific notation. I know I make these too large. So they want scientific notation. Are these all in scientific notation? I would say yes. The decimal points are after the 4. The decimal points are after the 4. So each of them are correct up front. They all have the times. and they all show a base 10 with a power. But keep in mind, this is a small number. It's a number smaller than 1. So the exponent has to be negative. Take a look at your exponents. Are they all negative? I hope you noticed they weren't. This is not a negative, so this answer is not a possibility. So let's answer this question. Here's the number I'm using. I can see my decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, because all of these have that decimal point off to the right. 5 spaces. There's your answer. Remember, this one is just counting 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and that's a big no. So don't fall for the zeros. Okay, last one in this set. We have to find the missing exponent. So m to the 8th divided by m to some power equals m to the 4th. So let's recall that rule that we have a to the m, and we're dividing by a to the n, that we are told to subtract our exponents. So here we have an 8. Take away some number is going to have to equal 4. So what number do I take away from 8 to give me a 4? You got it, a 4. So you're going to have to know how to use these formulas, how to use these rules. Again, I will give them to you, but you have to be able to use them.